If you watched this episode of Mob Psycho, you're not going to tell me that you did not get emotional. Because if you didn't, you didn't have a heart. Because this, out of everything I have seen from, like, this entire year of anime, this is probably one of the most heartbreaking scenes I have seen. Because Dimple is quite the character. And when you think about just how long it's been with the Mob Psycho anime, for instance, this is, season 3, and we've been waiting for, to get to this point, like how many years it's taken, basically, to get to this point, it's crazy to see just the full-on conclusion of Dimple's character, and just the weight, the magnitude of this episode is incredible. And it's time to talk about the true anime of the season, and it is not Chainsaw Man. It is not Bleach. It is not The Eminence in Shadow. It is not Blue Lock. It is Mob Psycho 100, Season 3. Anyone that has actually sat down and has watched these episodes, legitimately watched these episodes, and has watched this series, will not tell me, if you watch the other stuff from this season, hands down not one of the best shows of this entire anime season. Because it is beautiful. The production is finished. Studio Bones themselves even said months ago that the entirety of the show is finished, and that the only thing that they're really working on is probably little touch-ups that they want to improve on to make it even better. And because of that, we get segments like this. We get absolute beautiful, gorgeous moments in movement with Dimple going up against basically the god, like the divine Shri. And in movement, this is an incredible scene. And here's the thing. Many people don't watch Mob Psycho for one big reason. It's because of the art style. If someone that is coming into this video, and you see this, and you have never watched Mob Psycho, okay? You're going to look at this and be like, man, that's an ugly looking character designer. What's going on? Is this Pikachu? Etc. That's what people are going to say. And to a certain extent, that's funny. It is. But in movement, and in the way the series is done, I think it's because of the over-top nature of what this is. For instance, like, Dimple, he's literally, like, he's a golden god man spirit, and he's fighting broccoli. Literally sentient broccoli, if we want to just get down to the nitty-gritty of it. And when you look at just the ridiculous nature of that, it is hilarious. But somehow, the writer of Mob Psycho and the writer of One Punch Man is able to turn such ridiculous things into some of the most beautiful moments I have ever seen grace my eyes in terms of literature. Because when I look at this scene here at the beginning of the episode with Dimple and Kageyama, or Mob as he's known, talking with each other, it is such a beautiful moment to just kind of encapsulate all of the themes that is in Mob Psycho. Because when we think about Mob as a character, he is OP. We know he's strong. We know the man, like, legitimately, he could tear up this entire tree like it's nothing. Like, he could have tore up this broccoli, sentient, divine tree thing like nothing. He could have ripped everything apart. He could have destroyed Dimple probably in one hit if he really, really wanted to with all his energy. But he didn't. And the reason why he didn't do stuff like that is because Kageyama is someone that doesn't really want to rely on his psychic powers. He wants to be someone that is not just known for that, he wants to be his own person. He wants to struggle and fight for things that he wants. It's kind of like why he, went into the bodybuilder club. Why he even joined that, and he joined something that obviously is completely against what he looks like he would fit in with, but he did it regardless because that's what he wanted to do. And Mom as a character is such a good representation of just how people fight for what they want, the goals in life. And it's a very good coming-of-age story, along with trying to find your purpose or direction in life. Because Mob doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't know what direction or path he wants to take, because if he really wanted an easy path, he could go down the Esper path. He could easily use his psychic powers to really do something crazy, make the world a better or worse place, and he would get recognized and noticed a lot. But he doesn't want to rely on that, because that's just not something that interests him. He wants to have just a regular life, etc. And I think there is a lot of merit and just honor in that, in a lot of ways. And This scene with Dimple here, when Dimple basically starts to talk to Kageyama, or Mob, about just like how he's able to have so much power, and that this power could easily cause corruption. That could easily cause him to go off the handle, cause him to just be evil. But he doesn't. Kageyama is able to house such extraordinary power, and he's still able to maintain the reins and not lose control of what he really wants, and stay something very simplistic, like Dimple said himself, be noticed by girls. It's, like he said, it's adorable by comparison. You have this godlike being that just wants to be noticed by girls, and it's hilarious, but it's also adorable, just showing that he is someone that does not let this power consume him. And Dimple really respects that. In this moment, it really just shows that they're on a similar wavelength, and Dimple realizes that it's not about power, it's not about becoming a god, etc., and he learns a very valuable lesson, and he learns how much he cherishes Mob within this episode. He's always known, but this episode was more like acceptance. Acceptance of the fact that Dimple and Mob are friends, and I think what really just showcases this the best is when Dimple has to protect Kageyama, and he does everything he can in his power, his godly power, he says himself, to actually protect Mob from this entity, the divine tree that has taken its own subconsciousness. Like, it has its own consciousness now, it's able to do whatever it wants, and Dimple is legitimately fighting to protect just a regular boy. Someone that's basically of a god, and it's such a beautiful moment. This entire sequence is just sakuga in terms of just art and animation and beauty, but there is so much more to it than that, though. It's the weight, the message, and it's one of the big things that I've always loved about One's writing style. Like when it comes to One Punch Man or Mob Psycho, One's writing style is so underrated. I know people recognize it, and I know Mob Psycho and One Punch Man are definitely popular stories. They're 100% popular stories. I'm not saying that, it's underrated in the sense of being popular. I'm saying One's writing is underrated, because I feel like a lot of people that come to the stories like One Punch Man or even Mob Psycho, they watch these shows because of the wackiness to just also the incredible fights. That's my 2 cents on that. I could be entirely wrong. I'm throwing it out there, for at least for what I've seen from community reaction or interactions with each other. It's always just about the art and animation, and it's not about the pure, unadulterated writing of just One's writing. And it's kind of like, how One Punch Man is. How people really love One Punch Man. They love it for its fights, but there's so much depth in One Punch Man as well. You can read its surface value and be fine, but if you really want to dive into that well, you can really find so much good quality within One Punch Man in terms of its writing. And the same could definitely be said for Mob Psycho. I think Mob Psycho's writing is definitely more on the surface than, let's say, One Punch Man's, because with One Punch Man, you gotta really kind of dive a little bit through the fights to really see everything, while as Mob Psycho, it's a little bit closer to the surface. But, above it is the good art and good animation, so yeah. But anyways, the point I'm trying to allude to is I feel like the writing from One is so incredible, and I know everybody is going to be hyping up these other stories from this anime season. They're going to be hyping up Chainsaw Man, they're going to be hyping up Bleach, they're going to be hyping up, the Eminence and Shadow, they're going to be hyping up Blue Lock, they're going to be hyping up, Bocchi the Rock, Akiba Maid War, they're going to be hyping up My Hero Academia, all these different shows, and they all have their own quality and rights to be praised. They're all great shows. There is nothing wrong with loving those shows. But I feel like out amongst everything from this season of shows, I think that Mob Psycho stands out as the most different. Easily the most different in terms of just the quality of its writing. So I'm not putting down something like Chainsaw Man or Bleach. The writing quality of that is also absolutely incredible when you want to dive into it. But it's about Mob. It's my personal opinion here, and I think Mob's writing quality really just rings a certain bell inside of me, and I'm like, I really resonate with this series, and that is why I really love this show so much. Now, I want to take a few moments to really just let's talk about one of the saddest scenes, honestly, of this entire show. This scene with Dimple is so powerful because of just the weight behind it. When you think about where his character started to where it ended. Because I know many might quickly say, and it could still happen, Dimple might not be dead. And it's possible next episode or the finale of the series Dimple appears. But this is, from my understanding, the final season. There's not going to be a season 4 because the original webcomic or manga or whatever's done. And from my understanding, that means that this would be a perfect place for Dimple to pass on. Because when you think about his objective and what evil spirits or spirits represent, when they fulfill themselves and they no longer have a purpose to really be around, they move on to the afterlife. And in this case, Dimple technically has that. I mean, he no longer wants to be like a god and have followers. He kind of felt fulfilled. He felt like he had someone like a friend. And he also was able to control Shigeo, Mob, briefly to tell him to walk on his own 2 feet, walk forward in life, and protect him. In every way, when you look at the way this episode is directed, Dimple accomplished what he set out to do. He got what he wanted. He got what he wanted since the very beginning, and he lived a fulfilled life. And so he probably is going to pass on, and this is the finale of his character. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's true, but this would be a good stopping point for his character to especially push Mob forward as a person after losing such a good friend like this. Because when you think about what this interaction at the beginning really represented, basically like with Mob confronting Dimple and Dimple saying your shirt's ugly, I know it could be very rude, but this shows just how much of a friend Dimple was. He wasn't trying to put on a facade or a mask and lie to Mob to make him feel better. Dimple straight up told him, like, man, that's freaking ugly you're wearing. Why are you doing that? Are you okay? And even though that comes off as very rude or blunt, Dimple was the only one willing to just say it straight to Mob's face in such a way, which showed a level of respect. There is a line and a barrier from bullying and being rude to just being an honest friend and being straight up with someone. And in this case, it was very clear by the way Dimple came off that he was a friend of Mob and just told him like his shirt was ugly. And this entire point just shows how close Dimple and Mob was as friends. And so this final goodbye is one of the most heartbreaking moments when you see Mob not even knowing. He won't remember this moment. He won't remember what Dimple did for him, and he just leaves as Dimple literally dies for him. Dimple literally dies for Mob, and I think that's what makes this moment just so emotional, just seeing his broken body as he's trying to save him, trying to protect him. It's just like, holy crap, this series is something else. And then when you see the tree just start to float up in the sky and all that, like the broccoli tree, it's emotional because Dimple did that to be able to honor what Mob wanted, lift it up and throw it in the ocean or something, or take it to space. And when he cries alone here, it hits. It really hits. I cried. I'm not even gonna lie. I cried. I had tears when I saw this moment because it hit. Everything did. I mean, the art and animation as well, if we're really wanting to get into it, is just incredible in movement. I love the sound effects as well, with the different, effects when you see the clouds come in, or the hitting effects of Dimple, where it sounds like literal metal just being hammered. Just everything about this episode is just, it's insane. It's a legitimately insane episode, and I really love Mob Psycho. This is just too good of a show, and this anime is season. Enough said. It really is anime of the season. But I guess I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to wrap up this video, get to editing it, get to uploading it for you all can see it. But once again, before I end this video, I'm not saying that every other show is bad and only Mob Psycho is good. I'm not saying that because I feel like people might get that impression. I'm just saying, out of everything I've seen from this season, Mob Psycho is probably, if I'm trying not to be biased or have a recency bias or hype, and I'm just looking at everything that it presents on the table, Mob Psycho 100 Season 3 is my favorite season, or my favorite, series from this anime season. And I love all the other shows a lot, but this show really hits in so many different ways that I love as an anime fan. Not even speaking as a content creator or as a reviewer, but just as a anime fan, this is easily one of my favorite shows. And if you have still not watched this, and somehow you're watching this video to this point, you really should give Mob Psycho a try. I know people like to crap on it for its art and animation, but it really is such, or not art and animation, but they crap on the way it looks. Correction. But just give it a watch if you haven't. But I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed the video, and you enjoyed my honest thoughts on the latest stuff of Mob Psycho, leave me a like. It does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. But with that, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.